You are listening to the Park Flyer Podcast, where we discuss our RC adventures.
Welcome to the Park Flyer Podcast, where we discuss the ups and downs of the new RC Flyer. Join your hosts, Michael and Jay, as they take flight at the park. Now on with the show.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Park Flyer Podcast. I'm Michael from Arizona, and with me always are my good friends.
Jay from the hills of Texas.
And AK Mike in Texas.
And we would welcome you back. You have, you're back in the house there, AK Mike. You have been on vacay, I assume.
Yeah, I went to New Mexico.
That's awesome. Well,
very nice.
Well, before we hear about that, we're going to give a shout out to A Power Batteries. Once again, rcbatteriesusa.com. All of us use it here at the Park Flyer Podcast. So you can put in a code, Park Flyer Podcasts 10. So it's PFPC10, and that will get you a code, or that is our code to get you a discount. So once again, rcbatteries.com, rcbatteriesusa.com, and grab a handful of A Power batteries. So tell us a little bit about your adventure. It wasn't an RC adventure, was it?
No, it wasn't. Most of you guys...
It was kind of like an RC adventure, though.
Yeah,
a little bit.
I've been flying paramotor for a while now. It's actually a year, just a little bit ago.
Wow.
And we went with a bunch of guys to Taos, New Mexico. A friend of ours has a place up there in Red River, and his place. And we all had an opportunity to fly in the gorge there under the gorge bridge. And not everybody took that opportunity because it's scary.
Why is it scary?
It's scary because it's a 700-foot drop from the bottom of the bridge, and if your motor quits for whatever reason, you're walking out of there if you survive the landing. So it's kind of scary doing it, but really, in all seriousness, the risk level is mitigated. We did a lot of different things to make sure that it was a non-windy day. We flew around a bunch before going in there so that we could be sure the engine was working the way it should. Doing panic control and that stuff. Stuff that you might do if you freak out.
Right.
But then, just flew right underneath the bridge. It was really cool, a lot of fun.
Wow. So you know what we're gonna have to do? We're gonna have to come see this paramotor thing. Then we're gonna have to hand you a controller so you can RC fly while you're paramoting.
I probably could. Although I don't think it'd be very good for the plane overall.
Why is that?
Well, because I'd have to see the plane, first of all. And after I got into the air, that would be challenging to make sure it's flying right, that sort of thing. Now, if it was like a quad, I could probably do that and fly the quad around me or something like that. But
no, we got to do it. What we have to do is fly it with your iNav, something with iNav in it.
Yeah.
And then therefore you could put it into a stationary holding pattern. You launch yourself, you fly, you whip out your radio, flick over, take control, fly it around.
Or we could do like a follow me. Do a follow me.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Follow me,
and it could be watching you. Oh, that would be very cool.
Well, and I know, guys, here's the real concern I would have. If I made a mistake while flying that plane and it flew it into my wing or
that's
lines,
true. Yeah.
And that'd be problematic or potentially problematic. So it's not something I probably would try.
Big worry wart.
What a worry wart.
Fly something that weighs less than 250 grams. And I just saw a video where they finally took a quad and then flew it right into an aircraft, and they were like buffing off the damage, because the quad was just exploded. So actually, AZ Mike sent it to me, so that was pretty interesting. In fact, it was on our website, right?
I posted it on our Facebook listeners page, and it's actually a foreign video. It's some guys overseas in Europe, I think, either Germany or the net.
They seem Russian to me.
They seem what?
Russian to me.
They may be Russian, but anyway, it's over there somewhere, and they everybody's been talking about the quads, if they fly into, the airplane, and if it'll take down an airliner, if it does damage, that kind of thing. And so these guys finally said, hey, we've got a guy with this big, huge meaty style Russian type airplane, and we'll just fly it right into the wing, and we'll fly it into the propeller. And anyway, it wasn't really the full video. It was actually a teaser video for the movie or whatever, the new video coming out. So I only got to see a fraction of it, and I sent it out, or actually I posted it on our Facebook listeners page. So yeah, we're looking forward to seeing what that's all about, and jump on our Facebook page or Facebook listener. I guess it's a Park Flyer Podcast listeners group page, and give us a comment or two on it, and see what we can see what our listeners say. So before we get started tonight, too, I need to give a shout out to last time we had Eric Haddad on the podcast from 3D Aero Ventures, and he was really nice enough to talk us into, or actually allowing us to talk him in to using our first video. So I think we're kind of moving into that world. It's been a long time for us. We always talk like we're on the radio, and we talk with our hands, and we can see each other, but it wasn't like our listeners could see it. And Jay would make air quotes that nobody could see. And now they will be able to, because we actually have recorded videos. So we are excited about that. And Mike gets to be with us on our second episode. So this will be our second video podcast. If you are listening to the podcast, you can head over to our YouTube channel and check it out, and leave us a comment, subscribe, and let us know what you think. We are still kind of getting used to it, but I think it's going to be good. So let's see. What do you guys think about that, really?
What do you mean? Channel?
The video. You okay
it's kind of weird. You know, I don't want to scratch my face. I feel like I don't touch my nose. Yeah, exactly. I mean, we've all seen some of the joke videos that come out from the COVID stuff, and people doing different things they shouldn't be doing on their Zoom calls or whatever. But this is for real.
Mm-hmm.
This is for real.
It's true.
Yeah.
Not wearing pants or shorts or whatever.
Well, I thought it was funny when we started today. Mike was like, oh, man, I got to get dressed up. I can't just sit in my lounge chair with my underwear anymore.
Wait a minute. I never sit there in my underwear.
No, we don't know. We can only see the upper part of you. I could be sitting here in my underwear anyway.
That's why I can safely say I've never sat there in my underwear.
Yeah. That was funny. I will tell you that, having Mike said that, I was like, oh, he's right. So I went and put a nicer shirt on. So if you're listening to this, you're not getting the joke, but the rest of us, if you want to hop
there's a little shine on the forehead here. We got,
there you go.
Yeah. Old man's forehead going on. Yeah. Should have put some makeup on.
Old man's forehead. So for those of you that are watching on YouTube, welcome. And for those of you that are continuing to listen to us, give us a shout out, and let us know how we're doing.
It might be safer if you continue listening. I'll be honest with you.
Yeah, it could be. You never know. I will tell you that it's a new skill for me. I mean, I've edited videos in the past. This is the first time I've actually done a podcast. And so it was very interesting, and it was fun, and it didn't take me as long as I had imagined it would have. But I did have, a little previous experience to it. So having said all that, I think it'll work out.
I just want to say that, don't watch the YouTube video while you're driving.
Thank you.
You got to put that safety concern.
That's right. It's the Park Flyer Podcast safety message. Don't watch the video while you're driving. All right. Well, this week we have a terrible topic to talk about.
Oh man.
All right. So let me set this up real quick, because as you probably heard from the last time, I actually took an opportunity, had some time off, and I went down to Jay's. And while we were down there, we put together, I think on 2 podcasts ago, we talked about my visit, and we were doing some work on this KeeCat 65 or 50 or whatever it is. And we put this big 90 millimeter EDF on it. And then to bring everybody up to speed, I had, obviously some work to do, and I got called out to go fly. And so I told Jay, I was like, well, I got to go tomorrow. And I was scheduled to leave and go do my thing.
We were actually headed to the airport.
Right. And my flight didn't leave till like 10 o'clock and to get where I needed to be. And then Jay was like, you know what? You put this KeeCat together. Let's go fly it. And I'm like, really? I got to go to the airport. He goes, yeah, it's okay. We'll make it. So he charged some batteries. We jumped in the car. He threw the KeeCat in there, and we went to the field at 6 or 7 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, like 7 o'clock.
So anyway, the field was nice and mowed. He gets it all out. It doesn't really take much to put it together because you can transport it all together. The battery was already in it. He fired up his radio, and he hands the radio to me and says, okay, here you go. This is the maiden flight. And I said, okay, sure. So we, it rolled down the runway. It was
well, you got to back up a little bit, Mike, because I wasn't 100% sure where the CG was. And that was the problem. I talked to the guy who I bought it off of, and he kind of told me where he thinks it was, but it wasn't marked on the plane. And then I was
somewhere
trying to
in the middle of the plane.
That is
somewhere between here.
It might be
and
it might be
here.
towards the front, or it could be towards the back, but it's sitting there.
Exactly.
In that range.
Plus the plane's a delta wing, so it's not like a traditional wing. It's going to be on the spar.
Sure.
So I kind of got a good wag about where it was. So I went on the safety side to make it nose heavy. So we knew it was a little nose heavy, but we didn't know how much nose heavy it was.
It was a
lot. So then we take it down, get it ready to fly, and then go ahead and take it, Mike.
So yeah, he says, okay, that's pretty close. He wags it with his fingers, and then we run down, and there's really no wind. So that's the good news, because that early in the morning in that little field, there's not as much wind. In the afternoon it picks up. So I cobbed the power and rolled down the runway, and I thought, wow, this thing is really, from what we had all heard, it just jumps in the air. This thing wasn't jumping in the air. It started bouncing down the runway, and I actually put low rates, medium rates, and high rates in there, thinking that it would, help me out. And so I started out in medium rates. It wasn't rotating quite like I wanted to, so I flipped over to high rates, and it actually came off the ground. However, it was climbing out really flat, and it was a little pitchy, and so I went back to medium rates now that it's flying and started trimming. And I got most of the trim in, and I got it turned
beep, 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 beep.
It really was. It was beeping at us. And so I went downwind. I went around the pattern a couple times, and I finally got everything to where it was flying hands off. And it was actually tracking really straight. I was really surprised. It, was flying really well. And it only gets about 3 minutes, because it is an EDF, and we had a 6-cell battery in there. And so I told him, I said, okay, well, let's go ahead and let's, come in for an approach, and I'll see how it works. And so I left it in medium rates, came in, I gave myself a, long way out, and then came in and just, it started floating. It really felt like it was, kind of sinking, but it touched down, first little bit of the runway and just kept on cruising. Yep. And it moved all the way down to the end of the runway, and I was like,
other end of the runway. So it was like, whoa.
It was fast though too, right?
Yeah, it was very fast.
Very fast. It rolled really quickly. And so I told Jay, I was like, wow, that thing is really nose heavy. I mean, I put a ton of, trim in it. So we pulled it over to the table, and basically I kind of looked at it and said, okay, well, this makes more sense. I zeroed all the trims. We moved it back. I readjusted everything. I made the control surfaces more level. I readjusted the mechanical linkage on it so that I could zero everything out and have it there. You moved the battery back just a few millimeters.
Yeah, I basically took the half the wag of what we had, and went from there. And you flew it the second time. And one of the things though, it was still, the front wheel was kind of bouncing off the ground, and you'd not lose control, but it was kind of drifting a little bit to the right or whatever, I think it was. And so every time it would bounce, it would go to the right, and you're like, whoa, you can see your thumb.
Thumb would have pegged the rudder.
Yep.
Yeah. So he has nose wheel steering on it, and the nose wheel steering is actually a lot, but as it was going down the grass, it would hop. And then as it hopped up, I was trying to hold that connection in there, or that direction. And then it would just kind of, I had nothing, and I was just like, and then once I got it up to speed, I could use the rudder. So it wasn't so bad.
Right.
But anyway, it got airborne, and it flew around. This time was fantastic. It was spot on.
Better.
We moved it all back. I think we moved the battery back almost as far as it was.
No, you flew, I think you did a couple of patterns, and this time you came back around and you landed. I said, go ahead and land the plane right now, and I'll move the battery back even more. because you said it's better, but it wasn't great. Yeah.
Right.
So I moved the battery back as far as it could go and took off the third time. And that time you were like, whoa, that's a lot better.
Yeah, it flew way better. This time it even looked faster because it had kind of slid back some. And so anyway, we flew it around. I rolled it, did a loop, and by then it was really time for us to go. So I came in and touched down. It really slowed down, and it touched down really soft, and it was a nice flight. It was actually 2 nice flights, and so we hopped in the car and he took me to work, and basically.
Well, I think we actually was that still the first battery, or was that the second battery?
No, we had switched batteries.
Oh, okay. Because I know by the time we did the second battery,
we still had like a minute 30 on the second battery. We only brought 2 batteries.
Yeah,
the first one, second one, I flew around, and then I said, well, it's not still, not quite where it needs to be, and you said land. So I landed, and then we moved further back, right. And then I just did 1 or 2 turns around, and it was way better. Came in, landed. Really
That's right. Because I know I thought it was the second battery that you actually did you got it up and you stalled it, and kind of you didn't super ring it out, but you kind of felt it around, and you're like, oh, this is way better.
Yeah. I did do some a little bit more acro on the second flight with the second takeoff. Right. I did all the stall stuff way up on the first one, and it was just real heavy when it was doing it. So the second or third flight for me, right? So it was been 3 flights.
Yeah.
The third flight I did, I flipped it over to high rates, really drilled that thing. It was just whipping right around, and did the.
Oh yeah, especially you put it on high rates.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was fast. So we threw it in the car, and he took me to work, and of course I flew, and then wound up back in Phoenix, obviously. So unfortunately for me, I haven't been able to fly every day because all my stuff is still down in Texas. I have to go back down there probably this week.
Pick it up.
That's a neat trick, Jay. Get him to come back.
Yeah, exactly. Just say, hey, just leave your stuff here.
He's like on RC groups, and he's like, hey, what's that for sale? What the heck?
That looks a lot like my radio.
Those look like my batteries.
Your transmitter got way more than I thought it would.
Yeah, that's right. I didn't realize it was worth all that much, but hey, thanks. So anyway, we've been talking back and forth, and I was asking him if he had flown it yet. And have you flown it? Have you flown? No. I need to go out there and test it. And the mornings have gotten nicer out there for you. So
they got real nice. And so I basically, went to bed early, got up early in the morning. Oh, and during the time that you were gone, I had done some modifications to the plane. As always, I modified it, right? So it had, like I said, the last owner, he put plenty of air holes throughout the plane, through the fuselage and such. So I just didn't like the look of those open spaces in there. So with my 3D printer, I went ahead and I printed grills to go across all those openings, or I shouldn't say grills, they were louvers. So I printed these different louvers for the planes for all the different openings, and had some trials and failures, but I figured it all out. And it really looked nice with those on there. I mean, that kind of, for me anyway, really changed the whole look of the plane. And on one of them, I printed, I had printed them for Mike. He said he wanted to put some whistles in his A10, and he'd already gotten some out of some Nerf balls and stuff. And of course, I went on Thingiverse, started looking around, and there were basically replicas of those Nerf whistles that I could download. And so I downloaded and printed it for him, but he had already got enough of them to put in his plane. So I had them laying around here, and I said, oh, hey, this would be kind of cool to stick one of these whistles on this plane. So in one of the louvers, I molded, I guess the same diameter hole in one of the louvers so I could just push one of those whistles in. And it was kind of cool because I had printed them kind of thick, or at a thicker line setting. So I could actually screw it into the louver, and it would screw in. And it was kind of neat. So anyway, I had that in there as well. And like I said, the other day, it was a nice morning, got out there, no wind, beautiful, not a cloud in the sky. It was beautiful. It was like, I want to say 75 degrees, got out there, and I'm like, okay, let's do this. And put the battery in, got everything down. I redid the battery tray so that put in the non-slip stuff, redid not the zip ties, the Velcro ties and stuff. I had made, once again, printed out some some braces to hold those in to the plane, because the battery tray had a big, huge hole for the landing gear, the front landing gear, so you can get in there and fiddle with it. So I just made these things that went in onto the sides, so you could put the thing through and still be able to access and make adjustments to the nose wheel. So anyway, I get out there and I go to start it, and Mike had programmed, the last time we were in there, had programmed in the cutoff switch. So cutoff switch is on, I turn it off, and the motor goes, whee! And I'm like, oh.
Starts up.
It starts up and is rather high. So I'm like, oh man. So I go ahead, I turn it off, I unplug the thing, I throw the throttle to high, I replug it in so that the speed controller can go into its programming mode. So it calibrated itself, I undid that, redid it, and all of a sudden everything worked. So I went ahead and flew, and the flight was really, really nice. I mean, I was a little nervous, but once I got it up off the ground and flying around, man, that thing just puts around beautifully at half throttle and just rock stable. And I was like, wow, this is really neat. So I, had to give a little bit of down trim, just a couple of clicks, and it was just cruising around beautifully. So I was just getting, used to the plane, get my nerves. I came in and did a landing, and the landing was really sweet, right at my feet when I came in to land. Took off again, went around the pattern, landed again, and I was just like, wow. I was thinking about putting one of my gyros in there, and I'm like, this thing doesn't need a gyro. It needs nothing. It flies great, hands off. It's super stable, almost like a trainer plane.
Yeah, it was really much. It was really like a trainer. I mean, I was really surprised how stable it was.
Yeah. And and I think it's because it had such a fat wing. I mean, for a Delta wing, that wing was really, really thick.
And it had the twin booms. I think that.
Oh, and the twin booms, right? Because it tracked straight, man. It was on point when it was tracking. So anyway, now I'm all jazzed, right? So I'm like, oh boy, next flight, I'm gonna, ring it out. So the next flight, I, took it off. Same thing. Still having problems with the throttle cutoff. I had to reset it again. So this time I turned off the throttle cutoff, reset it, recalibrated the speed controller. Everything was working fine. Went to take off again. This time I'm flying, and I'm like, okay. Started doing a few loops. Clicked it off of, I think I was flying on low or medium. No, I think I actually was flying on low the whole time. So this time I put it into medium, and then I put it into high, and I was doing rolls. And I tell you what, man, that high, it rolls like a top. I was really surprised at how quickly it rolled.
It was a thrill.
But like you said, it has full span, aileron. So, I guess that's not to be, to be expected, but I was like, wow, that's okay. Well, we'll have to work our way up to that because it was super quick.
It was pretty quick. I was pretty shocked actually when I flew it, and when I went to high rates and rolled it, I was like, whoa, that rolled quick.
Yeah, exactly. I wasn't expecting it. So anyway, on medium, it was perfect, just for all around flying. So anyway, I'm doing a split S, and I'm kind of coming out of it. And as I come out, I start climbing again. And I'm kind of doing a 35, 45 degree climb out at the one end of the field. And all of a sudden the engine goes, and it just kind of goes whoop. And I'm just hearing the whistle of the little whistle. And I'm like, what? No throttle. So I go to kind of reset it, and it kind of goes at a perfect trajectory, gets to the arc, kind of levels out, and then, is up there kind of, and I'm like, no. And I'm moving all the sticks, right? Nothing's happening.
Yeah.
And I'm holding the radio up above my head, and I'm like, no, I'm running towards the plane. No. And it kind of goes up. It starts pre-stalling, goes like that, goes into a dive, pointed straight at the ground, whistling the whole way down. And I'm just screaming at the thing.
Good, you had sound effects and stuff too.
I know.
He was doing the sound effects while it was all going out. That was pretty.
And so she just kind of arcs gracefully over, and there's nothing I could do. And, the next thing I know, kaboom.
Yard sale.
Yeah, yard sale. So if anybody needs any balsa slivers, I got them for you.
There you go.
All grades, all sizes. So it turned into, and I have plenty of balsa powder. So
balsa powder, balsa sticks, both for
Yep. Yep.
A couple
Also
wires.
chips. Dude, it pulverized. That whole fuselage just got turned into sticks.
I think they're specially bent wires, aren't they?
They are now, yes.
Yeah.
Custom
bent. That's what I was looking for. Yeah.
So I jumped in the car. I drove over to the edge of the field. I had to hop a fence, jump into the llama field. Luckily, the llamas, I didn't have to battle any spitting llamas because I forgot my spit shield,
Because you could have got COVID from that. Llama.
That's right. Could have got some. Could
have been bad.
Llamas get COVID? I don't know. Yeah.
Well, dogs and cats do, so why not llamas?
Yes, llamas might.
So I get up to the plane. There's just a crater from where you can see where it went in, and then all the internal guts are just laying there off to the side. So everything's still connected, and the lights are on. And I'm like, oh, look at this.
The lights are on, but no one is home.
Well, yeah. I left my radio on, so I'm assuming had I went back to my radio and moved it, the servos would still move because everything was still connected. So I definitely had a brownout or something.
Man, that's
and as you know, with the Spectrum systems, it browns out for 4 or 5 seconds, or a second longer than it takes to come back. So
yeah, you definitely need to be several mistakes high and climbing for the brownout.
That's an interesting thing. He was climbing, right?
He was.
He was.
But he had just come out of a split ass low to the ground, and as he was turning, now he was getting,
It's all your fault, Jay.
It is.
If he had flied that higher, then that would have been no deal.
I don't know. There's a whole bunch of things, right? I guess I'm just like, it's one of those. This is one of those things that just burned me. I was so upset. I usually don't get this upset about crashing planes, but I was so upset. Because both Mike and I had put so much work into getting the plane ready to fly, right? And that was when he was showing me all the techniques and stuff, and I had made a couple of pieces and the 3D work I did, printing work I had to do on it, and just all the little things to make it come out to make it look really pretty, and it flew great. And I was looking forward to flying that plane, because it just flew so well. And then the second thing, after it got destroyed, I was like, well, I could just buy another one. Wrong. That's a kit that, it was very popular. But unless you nab one at a garage sale somewhere, you're just not the kits just aren't there. So actually, that's not true. I found one in Taiwan or Singapore, but I don't know if I want to order from there because I'm not sure if it's the right size.
It's cheap. It's $1.
It's $1. Yeah, not quite. So so I was it just burned it's one of those things that just burned my hide because technically speaking, it only got flown 4 times. Right.
That was
twice by Mike.
Nervousness level is inversely proportional to the time spent on the plane.
Yeah. 1.5 times by me. And it wasn't anything my fault, or whatever. So at this field, I've lost 4 big planes.
Mm-hmm.
And
were they all down by where the llamas are?
Yes, they were.
No. Two were, and then 2
one was over the river.
Failures.
I remember because I was there for that one, but we know what that one was. That one was too much amperage on the escape itself.
So on the what? On what?
On the ESC, electronic speed controller.
For those of you that
Mike, maybe you can put the image of the video across.
Right. For those of you that heard him say escape, you can call 830-444-4943 and
that's
give
right.
him a piece of your mind. That is our hotline, and
or give me a piece of your escape.
I will tell you that we have had some phone calls on there, and we do appreciate them. Some large portion of them have been about using the word escape. So we are trying to make a concerted effort.
That's going to be on me. Might as well put my newbie hat on. Just leave it on there.
We're just going to put it across the screen. Electronics escape. No. Electronic speed controller. That's what it is. So anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, so as I walked up, like I said, it was just parts and pieces. The landing gear was fine, the wings were fine, just the fuselage, just like I said, just simply imploded, and there was nothing left of it. So, like I said, it was just. I was really down yesterday. Or the other day. I haven't been that down in a long, long time from losing a plane. It just. I don't know. Just got to me. I almost wanted to quit.
Yeah. Jay and I go back about 30 years, and I can probably count on one hand how many times I've gotten a phone call that had that much anger in it. because Jay and I both, we just don't get angry. I mean, it's just not in our personalities. We're the happy-go-lucky guys. But when I picked up the phone and said, "Hey, bud, what's up?" I could feel the venom just oozing out of the phone, and the obscenity started.
Yeah, I just, the plane flew so well. I was so surprised at how well that plane flew. And I was looking forward to, having a nice long relationship with that plane, and for it to have it taken, snatched from me.
That's right.
Like that.
It was snatched right out of the air.
Yeah. And it was just one of those stories of how I got it. I got it for a great deal, got all the parts pieces for it. It flew great. I was, I don't know. It was just one of those things. I didn't expect that to happen. So I just don't know what to say. And it was a lemon receiver. I've never really had trouble out of a lemon receiver. It's always usually the orange receivers that I have problems with, and I don't fly with them anymore. So
right.
I was quite surprised.
It is surprising.
So I was robbed.
You were robbed. What's up with that?
So anyway, it's not nearly as an expensive lesson as what, for your L39, Mike, but still, it's just disheartening when you have something that you're falling in love with, and then all of a sudden it's taken from you, and you can't get it back. At least, for your L39 or for some of the other planes that you got nicks, dings, or whatever, and you can repair. But what I had,
yeah, there was nothing repairing that one.
Unless I go and plant a balsa tree, there's just nothing I can do for that one.
Right.
It was totaled.
So you guys, I'm sort of remembering. I'm going to sort of changing topics here. I'm sort of remembering Spencer was up here a while back. Did we get to talk about what he and I were doing? Well, okay.
No, that was right as Mike. I was taking Mike to the airport. He was up there with you because we were Mike had to leave early, and we were going to come up.
Right.
I think what made me start thinking about that is the EDF. So I have a EDF plane that's sort of an airliner type of a plane, and so I had put it together, and I brought all my planes, and luckily Spencer was there. One, it was windy. He would say it wasn't windy, but I mean,
right.
He would say it was windy, but it was like not too windy for him. But it was definitely too windy for me. So he's like, "I'm going to fly your airliner." I was like, "What?" I was like, "Okay, whatever. I mean, I don't care if you crash; it's fine." And so he ended up flying that thing. Well, one of the servos didn't work for the wheels, and I don't know, a bunch of different stuff were going on. I think one of the surface areas came off. I mean, it was just like all kinds of stuff. It's like, "Mike, did you check these planes out?" I said, "Yeah, dude, I checked them, but it's been a while since I really put my eye to them." So so we did some field repairs, and he flew that thing. And for me, I fly that thing like it's sort of a little just nice and easy flight around. And he had that thing flying upside down, and doing all kinds of crazy stuff. And of course, that particular wing needs some support because the wings want to fold up. Yeah. So so that was kind of interesting watching the wing kind of start to come up towards the plane. It's like, oh, maybe you probably shouldn't do those high G maneuvers. And but we ended up getting that down, and they flew my wing, and that had its share of problems. We found out that the battery was not heavy enough. The battery put in there, which were so this is an interesting thing. The new A-Power batteries that you sent me, we put one in there.
Oh, you did? Okay, perfect.
Yeah. Well, they work great, except for they're not nearly heavy enough because they're a different makeup. And I end up having to put an 800 milliamp battery next to it, not plugged in, but just like next to it for weight.
For weight?
Yeah, for weight. And then finally that started flying right. It was kind of crazy. And then what else did we fly? I don't know. I had one or two other planes that he.
So you couldn't move the battery forward at all?
No, it's in the very front of the
box.
Front.
It just didn't weigh. It didn't weigh.
No, it just didn't weigh anything close to what the other batteries I've had. Yeah, so it's probably a good 30 grams less, I imagine. I haven't weighed them, but it's in that range because that 800 is probably about 30 grams, I'd guess. And so that made that work. And again, I can't remember what other planes I had. Oh, I probably had my yellow EDF there as well, and that thing flies great. I love that plane. even after I
Well,
crashed it.
I know you weren't flying your MX2 or whatever because the wings are sitting right.
Yeah,
that's right.
Right back there.
The
I left them
wings
down
are
there.
sitting on that stool.
Jay
right
wants
there,
me to
so-
come back too.
I
So,
think
I do.
think he's got this reoccurring theme going on where it's like, hey, come on down, and then when you get home, you're like, where is all my stuff? And it's like, hey, you got to come back and get it. So, yeah, exactly.
But thanks to Spencer, I mean, I think the whole reason I point this out is, because Spencer was there, we had a reasonably successful day flying in the wind. Sure. Oh, I brought the Dragonfly, which is one of my favorites.
Yeah,
that thing that we did a lot of touch and goes, and in the wind we could fly that thing high alpha, no problem at all. That thing just zips right in.
I thought your Dragonfly got demolished.
No, that was the Panther, the yellow Panther.
Yeah. But I thought the Dragonfly, the Dragonfly is the Polaris. Other names has the Polaris and some other.
No, it didn't. I had some trouble with the motor. It wasn't taking off the water very well because of the incident angle on the motor for some reason. And so now that I have the YouTube from last time, I can use that to, what was it? Force times distance equals the moment arm.
That's correct. Yep, that is right.
So I can get the moment arm. I remembered it. Yeah,
that's true. Yeah, he must have watched the video.
I can get the moment arm properly set on the step so that's working the way it's supposed to work.
Very nice.
So we'll have to see how that goes. But anyway, I just wanted to bring that up.
Well, he did say he had a good time down there. I know you guys. I was supposed to come up, but I got called out to go to work. But it seemed like we're gonna have to make a concerted effort to go up there. But he did have a good time, and I guess you guys checked out a couple of fields up there too, or tried to.
Yeah. Right? Yeah, so Spencer had been doing. He was in a different part of the state in Irving, and I live in Dallas, and so he was a little bit further away, and so we were trying to figure out fields that would be in between. For him to go to my field would have been like a 2 or 3 hour, 2.5 hour drive just to get up to the field where I fly typically, and so we started looking around and found a bunch of fields. One was a park that was basically, I guess it would be a marsh. That's what we call it.
Is that because it's been raining, or is it just normally a marsh?
Well, I think it's got a lot of water around it, but when it rains, it fills up pretty quick, and you just can't fly there. So I think that was one of the first places we went. And it was like, yeah, this is marshland. No wonder it's a flying field. And then the next one we went to was Greenville. I can't remember the name of it actually. One more. I had to look it up, but. That one was a good one, and that's where we ended up flying. There was a third one he went to, I didn't go to, was a jet park, a place where they fly. But it was like, I left about noon from where I had stuff to do in the morning, so I left about noon going towards him. He calls me, I'm halfway there. Hey, dude, don't come out. I was like, what? He's like, don't come out because everybody left already. I was like, what?
Oops.
So I'm already halfway there. He goes, oh, bummer. So that's when he started looking up for the other fields, and then we just met at one of the other fields that were there. And the last field we went to was where we flew. They had a nice. I think I sent a picture to you guys. They had a nice.
Yes, I think you did.
Yeah, a nice setup, and we had a good time flying there. Met a kid named Felix who was really good at flying. He had a helicopter, and he was doing some stuff. And there was another guy out there mowing the lawn, and they were actually rolling it too, which is cool because it just rained. And so when it rains like that, they get their roller out there and they roll it so it's nice and tight. And that made it a really great. I mean, it was a grass field, but it was. I used my wheels. My that airliner has kind of pavement wheels, really, but it rolled out just nice.
Huh.
So yeah, a lot of good things. So I might spend some more time at that field because it's actually a little closer than the other one. So
very cool. Well, that's good that you were able to get out and find some extra fields or find a new place to fly.
Good stuff right there.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I will tell you that we mentioned the phone number. One of the guys called us, so we want to reach out to them, and he asked us for more helicopter content.
So there you go.
So there you go. We're going to have to get back with him. However, honestly, you can see I have one. If you're watching the video, you'll see that there's a little helicopter behind me. I've put that thing back together about 6 times. I'm not really good at flying it. And then Jay has a 230 or something that we've flown once or twice.
Yeah.
But
I have a Myriad, a couple of E-Flight helicopters, and I also have KX, I think it is KX 120.
Mm-hmm.
That's a aerobatic one, so flies off of one cell, but it's actually quite cool.
Well, I will tell you that we're going to have Spencer back on
somewhere.
because Spencer is a helicopter guy, albeit none of us are. So that's probably why it is you're not hearing as much, enough helicopter content, because none of us are very good helicopter pilots.
Yeah, we got to have more helicopter.
Okay,
guys.
so
That's the
if
case.
you're a helicopter pilot and you'd like to share some content with us, 830-444-4943.
And there you go. And
Yeah.
yep. So we can actually have Spencer on, and then he can answer all those questions, because the rest of us will just be going like, I don't know. I don't know. So, but one of the things you guys do fly are like quadcopters.
Yeah.
And you guys have both flown those. I've actually flown them. It's not my favorite thing to do, but there you go. You got a little mini one. And so a couple of weeks ago when I was down at Jay's, somebody had sent out, and I know this is kind of coming out late because during the COVID lockdowns, they had these flybys. And the Blue Angels flew all over.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
And we started talking about this video that had come out, and I know that the video's been out for quite a while, and I haven't really heard much about it, but I did just have a couple of things to say, and then we can kind of let it go. But I think there was a couple of guys that did some videos specifically for it, and they basically were asking if it was real or not.
Mike,
Jay,
is this a conspiracy theory?
it's not a conspiracy theory, but
Okay.
But I do understand because I fly full scale aerobatics. And I do have a smoke system on my airplane. And the way the smoke system works on the real airplane and on RC jets, because we do fly RC turbines and they have smoke systems as well, is that you have a smoke tank full of oil. That oil is piped through a high pressure to a very small outlet.
Jet. Yeah.
It's like it's about the size of a ballpoint pen. I'd show this here, but the size, if you're listening, you can't see it, but it's about that big. Like if I took the pin apart and, it was about the size of a soda straw, and the soda straw comes out into the exhaust port on my airplane. On the jet, it comes out right in the tail end of the tailpipe. And so what it does is it sprays this oil. In my particular case, it fans it out. So it's like a little fan. And it sprays this little fan, and then as a result, that hot exhaust that's coming off the motor instantly burns the oil, and it turns into smoke. Now, the reason I bring that up is because the smoke coming off the airplane is very dense, and depending on the type of smoke and how fast it's releasing, it will, what I call hang, right? It doesn't come apart, it just kind of hangs in the air. And so on my particular airplane, I can actually start the smoke and do a complete loop. If I pulled a 6G loop around, I could actually come down and almost catch my smoke trail. I wouldn't catch it because it's not putting, it's actually burning at a little bit better rate. So if it wasn't, then I could have come down and just gone right through the smoke. Now, the reason I bring that up is because in this video, the Blue Angels are flying with smoke. And there are 6 Blue Angels. Actually, in this video, there were 6. So there should be how many smoke trails? 6. Right.
6. Yeah.
So if there's 6 smoke trails, then all 6, including the lead, was burning smoke. And in part of the video, you will be able to count 6 smoke trails. In the later part of the video, they have a quad that's basically sitting still, and the airplanes fly very close to this quad. And that's where people are like, is this real? Is it fake? What's the story?
I think part of the problem is that when you first watch the video, I think it's one of those things everybody was getting up in an uproar that somebody's flying a quad, that the big fear that somebody's flying a quad, nobody knows he's up there, and here it is, multi-million-dollar aircraft, and somebody could get hurt. They're over the city. Of whatever city. I think they were Detroit. I think maybe that was the
Detroit
city.
or Minneapolis somewhere.
And of course, what if this quad got sucked into an intake, or what if? So, the quad, you see the quad at a couple of different angles, and, the first couple are far away, taking an aerial shot from far away. And then the last one, he's like right on the approach as the jets are coming straight for the plane.
Yeah, they actually got to go
just
right over him.
Right. And it goes right over right near or right by the quadcopter and then flies off. And everybody's like, oh my gosh, that was so dangerous. Well, when I saw it the first time I saw it, I was like, oh my. And then I thought about it. I go, how's that quadcopter still flying with something zipping by doing, almost 600 miles, per hour, flying right next to it. It should have been flying end over end towards the ground. Mm-hmm. That's what I was expecting. Maybe the guy saved it before he got down to before it hit the ground. Well, this thing doesn't wobble, waver, or nothing. And when I saw it, I was like, that's kind of weird. Right. Because it's just a regular, not a Maverick, but a Phantom,
a DJI
type. So maybe he's just like a really good pilot.
Yeah, it's not so. I mean, flying those quads in even a heavy wind causes a little bit of motion. But the point I was bringing about the smoke is that when they fly by, there's only 5 smoke trails. Jay and I counted them.
Yeah.
And the smoke is not, I mean, for being that close, I can tell you that the smoke coming out of the back of that thing is very condensed. And it should be very, very bright, white, tight, little, it shouldn't be fanned out. It comes out and it's in, eventually it dissipates. But as it flies by,
it should have been pretty thick.
Stuff.
Right.
So I'm going to, we could spend hours and hours talking about how dangerous it is to fly quads in the middle of an airport or in the middle, of aircraft that are performing like that.
Wait. But we just talked about how they purposely drove a plane into a quad and it didn't do anything to it.
Well, true. Right. This is after the fact, though. That just came out. But
right. What I'm saying, though, is like, all right, well, we got 2 sides of the story here, which is good,
correct. Right. So, we have talked. We could talk. That's why I said we could talk all day about how dangerous it is or not dangerous it is. It is dangerous on that it could damage things.
Well, there's a lot of hype.
But there is a lot of hype behind it. I've already mentioned that I've hit a big, a brown Pelican, which is way larger and heavier and more solid than a quad, and it did not. I'm still here today, so it did a lot of damage to the airplane, but the airplane didn't fall out of the sky because.
Well, you just put the windshield wiper on it.
It actually went right through the motor, but we sucked it right into the intake.
You got 3 others.
2. I just had 1 on this. I was on the 737 at the time.
Okay.
But anyway, the thing is that I've watched the video several different times. I saw it. I know there's been a lot of kind of talk about it, and it's kind of gone by the wayside now. But I do think that it was probably more on the fake side, just because of some of the aerodynamics behind the way the smoke works, the way wingtip vortices work. You can watch those airplanes, the Blue Angels, if you do an inside picture. They have a lot of videos of them flying real close in formation, and you'll see that the airplanes are bouncing around quite a bit. And that's that size airplane. And if they're in a tight formation moving that much, that little quad should have just been, flipped end over end, because with those guys flying in that close proximity, there's a lot of wingtip vortices, turbulence, all that stuff. You can see it in each other, especially when you're flying close formation like that. You're getting a lot of burble off of the wing. So the fact that...
All right, so as a person who doesn't fly real jets, or maybe, somebody like doesn't really understand all the things that you're talking about, how am I, as a regular guy, brand new to the RC field, or, just as a regular guy listening to us, because maybe they just have interest but never flown, how are they going to know that the stuff is fake? Their best buddy, who's a pilot, says, "Look at this," and they sends the video to them, and maybe they're mistaken about that.
Well, that's
a thing.
That's kind of the point of the hype, right? That's what I'm talking about, because it's so realistic. Just put, there's a couple of bobbles that were in there. The smoke was one. The chase plane's another. The chase plane's, all of a sudden in front of the jets, and then all of a sudden the chase plane's behind the jets.
So we're going to be like the airplane Snopes of the internet.
Kind of.
Well,
I
would say, that's a good question, Mike, and it's a good point, because if you're new,
they're not going to know.
Yeah, but if you're new and you don't know, then I would tell you, basically, don't assume that it's is what it is right off. There are
everything's a lie until when?
I don't say everything's a lie, but
I'm just trying to. I'm over dramatizing a little bit, but how do you really get to the point where it's like, okay, do I spend time investigating this because maybe I don't really care that much, but my best buddy just told me this is the thing and it's a serious thing, and so I'm going to go along with him because he said it's a serious thing.
Yeah, well, it is a serious thing, but at the same time, your best buddy needs what I guess I should say is don't grab it and then just throw it out there as the duplicate it as truth. Oh my gosh, look what happened. This is 100% true, because you really don't know. And I think that there needs to be some sort of investigative research done, or talk to those people that do know, or someone that has a background in aviation. Heck, we've got an email. There's several of us here that do this. So, you can send us if you're one of our listeners and you had a question about that, feel free to email us at the Park Flyer Podcast.
Or you could call 830-444-4943 and then leave a message.
You could do that. Just leave a message for Arizona Mike, and I'd be happy to, get back with you and kind of explain some of that stuff. I've done it for 30 plus years. So having said all that, though, the video went viral. Everybody, had comments on it. Jay and I were together at the time, so we kind of reviewed it, and we watched a couple of the videos on people that also had backgrounds that reviewed it.
XJet did an excellent review on it.
Yeah, they did. I really don't know if anybody came to the conclusion that this was as real, but the problem that we're having with this is that it's the perception that it's real.
Exactly.
And that's where we run into the fact that there's government agencies who will remain unnamed, but their initials are the FAA. Do you like that?
Yeah. Make sure you just use the nomenclature.
Yes, just the nomenclature. Yeah. It's just their initials. I'm not going to tell you who it is. But they look for items like this, and they can use this kind of stuff to drive, change in our industry. And I don't know if you got the same email. I think I forwarded it out, but they're already started. I just got an email a week or two ago where they're already starting to request people submit, some information on this remote ID. And this was one of the things that we all talked about, right? Is that you can't put a system, you can't put a rule in place and then go out into the industry and say, okay, we need to figure out how to do this. And that's kind of what we've done. The FAA went ahead and put the rule in place. Everybody's going to have remote ID. Well, that system isn't here.
No, we got to invent it.
and that's the email that, it said, hey, we've asked several companies. They're working with us. We want to play nice in the sandbox. But it's kind of putting the cart before the horse, right? You put the cart there, and then you say, hey, we need a thoroughbred to come, pull this cart. Well, no, we don't. We need a mule. Or do we need the cart at all? I can carry my own stuff. So I just, unfortunately, I was reading that email and I just thought, man, this is one of those things. There's 4 million drones out there, RC airplanes and quads and whatever else, and we got 55,000 responses. That was really not enough.
Well, whoever invents this thing is probably going to be, make some money, I imagine.
They might, but it's a government contract, so who knows? They may become wealthy over it, and it may not work. Jay and I have had that long conversation, weren't you?
Or it may work fantastic, but it weighs 8 pounds, or whatever, and has a big old tube.
No more 2,200 batteries from me.
No, not and it may cost $1,000 or $300, and you're supposed to have one in.
But that would reduce the number of planes in the air, so.
It could.
It worked, I guess, in that respect, right? Because now people can't fly, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well. Anyway, I would caution you to, when you see stuff like that, just make sure that you're not perpetuating the drama, posting it to your Twitter account or, hey, everybody, look what happened. And I think that causes more harm than good if you're in the industry. Now, you may
'cause
think
everybody's gonna
totally
get spun
different,
up over it.
and if you do, you can call our number or you can email us or post it on our listeners group. We welcome it. And if, it's okay to disagree. I'd love to hear the feedback and see what you think. But for me, sometimes, panic is not the best way to handle it. And I think sometimes it comes back to bite us overall. But that's just my opinion. So there you go.
I think the reason we haven't seen this much on the regular news is just because of all the whole, the COVID and, the protesting and all the stuff that's going on in the world right now kind of just overshadowed it.
It might have been.
Just-
or they may have debunked it a lot sooner.
No,
true.
I just think with everything else that's been going on, it just kind of fell way down to the wayside. Luckily for us, is what I'm kind of getting at.
Yeah.
That it didn't get more traction because had it been a slow news week, I'm sure that would have been at the forefront. That we have to stop the evil drones. Look at this, almost took down.
Yeah, it is true.
Multi-million-dollar
the news cycle
Blue
does do
Angels.
that, but so anyway, let us know what you think. The parkfirepodcast@gmail.com. Or once again, you can call 830-444-4943.
What was that, Mike? That was 830-444-4943. Is that what you said?
That is
I think
correct.
you heard it right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. So, and then if you're lucky enough to watch our video, you'll see that we kind of keep each other informed with messaging. So I think Mike said when he watched it, because Mike wasn't on the last video, so you actually had to watch the podcast and give us some feedback.
Yeah, I was sad.
Were you? We missed
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
I missed the launch.
Did you? You did miss the
Yeah.
But I will tell
Becky
you
made
that
Becky made the launch. I didn't even make the launch.
That's true.
I know. She comes walking through the background.
Well,
Luckily, she was dressed.
yeah,
so,
that is
hey,
true. Well, I would have edited that out if she wasn't, but
that would have been great. A little black bar walking across, back over.
it's like, well,
Hey, our ratings have flown through the roof.
Yes. Wow, that is not made for kids. That's funny. Well, it looks like we're pretty close to our time being up. Unfortunately, once again, my stuff is in Texas, so I'm probably not going to get to fly. However, I did go to the field the other day to hang out with the guys, and one of the guys out there, Bill, he brought this little, I don't know what it is. It's like a little UMX flat, twin racer kind of thing, and it's got two motors in the front, and they both start up, and then when you go to exercise the rudder, one slows down and one speeds up, that kind of thing. And anyway, he comes out, and Spencer and I were standing there, and he goes, "Hey, you guys should fly this." Spencer's like, "Okay." So he took the radio, and the guy goes,
Spencer
"No."
never says no.
No, he never says.
Yeah.
No. That's not true. He'll say no depending on what the airplane looks like. I've seen him say, "Yeah, I don't want to fly that." So, but anyway, Spencer launches this thing, and it was like crazy. And this thing was like, it actually was about the size of a Frisbee, and it looked a lot like a Frisbee. It was flat like that. And anyway, we flew it around, and poor Bill is standing there like, I can't believe you were flying that. And I looked at him, I was like, what do you mean? He opens his hand, and in his hand are the two twin booms that go on the tail to keep the stability. So Spencer's out there flying it around with no rudder, no vertical stab, nothing. And he's just standing there because he's crashed it. Like, he forgot to put them in, and Spencer flies it around. Well, Spencer went up and actually put it into a flat spin. And this thing looked like oh my gosh, it was a big flat pancake, but this thing was spinning, and he and I started laughing, and we could not stop laughing. And then I'm like, hey, let me try it. So I flew it, and we were spinning it. And I was like, how many times can you spin it before you have to recover? Because it took it like 3 or 4 or 5 turns to recover.
That sounds like a recipe for disaster.
It was.
Yep.
It was a recipe for disaster.
Hold my beer.
And with someone else's airplane, no less.
Yeah, exactly.
So give Bill, kudos to Bill. So quickly, I kind of want to bring this up because it's something that Jay said earlier. But I took it back up, and I thought, man, I can do more turns than Spencer. So I went way up. I mean, I went really high. And when I spun it, I realized, oh no, it's spinning, but it's like a Frisbee. It's moving further away from me because we were just flying it in front of us. And now it's like on the other side of the runway. And so I come out, and I've got it full throttle, and the thing is it is flying backwards as fast as it can go. And it's just getting farther and farther. And these guys are making fun of me about, hey, old man, can you see that far? And, and I can still see it, but it's really unstable. And I literally am at full throttle. I'm trying to get it to come down. And Spencer comes running over there. He goes, just put it in the ground. And he takes the radio, chops the throttle, and just boom, right into the ground. And I looked out and I was like, crap, now I got to go get it. I said, the least you could have done is try to get it back. He's like, yeah, it ain't coming back, man. It's in the wind. But you don't want it to wind up in the highway because it was going. So Bill was like,
no, wait. So the reason that it flew off was because you guys were flying it right in front of you, and that you have a cupola or whatever for your field, right? That kind of blocks the wind and stuff.
Yeah. We have the little awning that you sit under.
Awning, yeah.
And I got it way up above that.
Above it, right?
Yeah,
So that's why it took off.
It was, and the wind was howling. I mean, it was the windsock was pretty much sticking straight out. So I mean, it was later in the day. And, of course, the sun was going down, and we didn't want to fly that direction because you're staring into the sun, and I did that already once, saw stars. So anyway, it went way out there, and I handed the radio to Bill, and he went to turn the radio off. And I just saw him reaching for the button, and I was like, whoa! And I snatched the radio back from him. He's like, what? And I go, don't turn your radio off. Don't do it. He's like, why not? I said, because I'll never find that airplane if you do. So we hop in the truck. He goes with me, and one of the other guys goes with us as well. And we drove all the way over to the fence, hopped the fence, and then we started walking through the field. And so my friend Ernie told me, he's like, okay, there's a big saguaro cactus, and I think it's just to the right of that saguaro cactus. And I said, okay. So we walked right to where the saguaro cactus was, and we were standing there. I told the guys, I was like, okay, listen. And I gave it throttle and moved the control surfaces. Sure enough, off in the distance, I heard it go, zzz, zzz, like that. And I was like, okay, it's over here. And they go, it is? Because they never heard a thing. And so I walk around. There's down in this little gully. We walked around the saguaro. It was actually to the left of the saguaro. We got a little bit closer, and I said, okay, hold on. And I zzz, zzz, like that. And I go, okay, I know where it's at. So I made a beeline for the noise. There was a big, huge bush and some cactus. So I walked around it, and there it sat flat, just sitting flat on the ground, no damage. And so I scooped it up, and they were standing there like, "Oh my gosh, I cannot believe you found this thing because it's a UMX. It's very small." And Bill, I felt sorry for Bill. Goes, "You see all these tire tracks in here?" I go, "Yeah." He goes, "That was me last week on my bicycle. I was back here for 3 hours looking for my airplane." I said, "Really? There's an airplane back here?" He goes, "Yeah, I lost one." I said, "Well, okay." He goes, "Yeah, I would have never thought to leave the radio on to try and find it." And I said, "Well, unless the airplane crashed and everything came apart, it doesn't do you any good. But you will not know that until you get close."
Exactly.
And I said, "I never shut my radio off because if you do, rebinding it is going to be a hassle, right? I mean, it may not rebind, or it may do something silly, right? It may the motor may kick on and just go full throttle, and then it tears your airplane up, or anything could happen." And so I told him, I said, "Yeah, never turn it off." I said there was actually a time out at the Mesa field where somebody had lost their airplane, and I took the radio out and lowered the landing gear, raised the landing gear, and I could hear it, zzz, zzz, like that. And I was like, "Oh, it's got to be over here." And we walked right to it. I go, "So you have to listen to those sounds and exercise the radio." I said, Jay lost Jim's airplane out in the river back there, and we found it the same way.
That's right.
We walked back there.
My fun jet in Alaska, way in the woods.
Yep.
We used that. We used the servos, found it right away.
That's it. And I think we lost your glider as well, and we found the glider the same way.
Yeah.
The big. Yeah. Now the glider was ripped in half, but we could. We did find it, and we were able to.
One problem at a time, right?
That's
One
correct.
problem at a time.
And the main thing is finding it. So
he got a new glider out of that.
He did get
it worked out well for him.
Right, it did work.
And he got and it was all decorated when he got it. Dude,
right.
come to think of it, that was a sweet
guilt
deal.
was heavy. For sure.
That's true. Yeah, you actually turned out that was a really good deal for you because you had some.
Worked out
you guys
great.
want to fly anything else?
Piece of
Jay, fly this one.
Right. Exactly. So anyway, there's some advice for you. Use it as you feel free. But if you lose your airplane out there, make sure you keep your radio on. Just walk out there and try to. Now, don't go full throttle and leave it full throttle. People have done that too.
No, don't do that.
You just have to exercise the servos, and sometimes you can hear them raise the landing gear, maybe bump the throttle. Now, I will tell you, if it's electric and it's sitting in a tree and the prop will actually, I call it a ching. It goes ching, 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 like that because it's not turning and you're hearing that chatter. And it is relatively loud. So, but anyway, that's kind of our safety lesson for today. Go out there.
Safety tip of the day.
And you can find it. So, but anyway, back to the, we came back and we brought it all the way back. Everybody was laughing because we actually found it. I grabbed the two little tail feathers of it. I stuck them in there and I flew for 3 more minutes because I had 3 minutes on the battery. So anyway,
Wow.
It was fun, and everybody was jumped out to fly, and I flew it around everybody and then came in and landed. And I felt really, really glad that I didn't have to buy the guy a new airplane after I'd lost it. Because those UMX airplanes are like $100, and I was just like, "There's no way I'm losing $100 in that little thing." I was having too much fun, and Bill's a nice guy. He probably would have said, "Don't worry about it," but I still would have felt guilty. So I probably would have bought him a new one because I was the one flying it.
I know it's served me so far. So that's
Yes, it has.
That's right.
So anyway,
There seems to be a theme there.
that can be a whole nother episode on the etiquette of flying other people's airplanes. So, and we'll let Jay handle that one. 'cause he's
or
a-
to otherwise topic, how to use guilt for bettering your plane stable.
and we'll let Mike go with that topic. So
Yeah, that'll be my topic.
his topic is how to use your guilty conscience to get new airplane parts.
I love that plane.
It was my grandmother's airplane.
I remember flying that when I was 7 years old.
Exactly.
You bought it last year.
But I remember it like it was when I was 7.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that pretty much does it this week. It's gone by pretty quickly. Hard to believe, but Jay, you flying? You mowed the grass. You kind of you don't have anything to fly, do you? Or do you?
Oh, I got. Yeah, no, I don't have anything to fly. I don't know. I might need a new plane.
Yeah, I know.
Maybe. I don't know. No, I'm probably going to go out if I can get my butt up early in the morning. So I'm a little bit like count.
I think you told me you were going to 3D print a plane or something. I don't know, something about a micro cam or something like that.
Yeah, well, Eric, after the last
That's right.
our last little show, I got a little excited because I finally got my machine pretty well tuned up that I think I can start printing some parts, airplane parts like that.
Oh
So-
boy, oh boy, oh boy.
Yeah.
Oh, boy,
so
oh, boy,
he's
oh,
gonna
boy.
Give it a try. I
So-
think he's going to work with him. So, well,
Exactly.
that pretty much does it for our time. We are glad Mike is back with us, and
Thank you.
we're glad that we've got this video thing going. Hopefully, it'll continue. And then, other than that, I've got training tomorrow for a couple days, and then after that, I'll probably wind up back down in Texas. I think for a little bit. We'll see how that works. I need to get all my stuff.
Hey, if you're at Jay's house again and you're coming up to Dallas, grab those wings, will you?
I will. If I was going
Well,
that way,
it's-
but I'm probably
he's
flying
going
into
that way. He's
Dallas.
going straight to Dallas
Yeah,
first.
Flying straight to Dallas, and then I'm probably flying down to Austin.
Austin.
Yeah, so just stick them in your suitcase or something on the way back.
No, well, I'll fly to Phoenix.
No, he'll be in
Austin.
his
Oh,
car.
oh,
If I drove my
Drive
car,
back.
I'm going to be driving. The
You're
other
you're,
direction.
you're out of luck, man. That's basically what
Just
he's
leave
saying.
Dallas on the way back. I mean, come on.
It's a little out of the way, but whatever.
Give a guy a break.
We'll get him to you. Trust me. It's funny. Well, that's it for us.
I'll go down and get him at some
Yeah.
point because I want to fly my paramotor down. I tried to a while back. We talked about it on the show a little bit, and I, for whatever reason, couldn't get my unit started. Or we had some trouble, and
It was FUBAR.
it was FUBAR. Yeah, there's some
Well,
issues.
That's better.
But-
to
Yeah,
alone.
yeah, you can't fly it when it's not working.
Sure.
But I need to go back down there because they're a great bunch of guys down there and love to fly to space.
Good. Well, we're glad nothing happened to you. And from Michael here in Arizona,
Jay from the hills of Texas.
And AK Mike in Texas.
we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Let's fly.
You have been listening to the Park Flyer Podcast. Thank you for joining us, and we look forward to your next visit. Please give our show a star rating and review, and feel free to email us your questions, topics, or suggestions to parkflyerpodcast@gmail.com.